Hello, everybody. Today is a very big day. Welcome to Gaines LinkedIn Live. I'm so excited because one, it's my first LinkedIn Live with my good friend Ed, and two, he's launching something that the industry has been wanting, craving, needing for many years now. So let's get into it. Ed, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Danica, for having me. Really excited about this.
There's been how many WhatsApp messages do you think back and forth? Voice notes?
At least 500, yes.
Let's start from the beginning. So Ed, maybe you want to just spend a couple of minutes introducing yourself and talking about why today is such a big day for you.
Yep, sure. I'm Ed, short for Edouard. I'm the founder of HotelTech Jobs. We're a recruiting agency that specializes in the hotel tech industry exclusively. What else do you want to know? Why I started this?
Yeah, so I think before we get into the HotelTech Salary Benchmark Report, I think it's important to take it back because we met a year ago and you've since launched your own business. You're doing really well. You've placed many people that I know and adore in hospitality technology. So kind of explain why you felt the need to, even the idea for the HotelTech Salary Benchmark Report. When did it first come and why?
Awesome question. The first thing, I was thinking of many ideas in my head of what's the most value I can bring to the industry. And the first thing that came to mind was data. Okay, but what has it got to do with recruitment? Well, I figured out since the beginning that most hiring managers that I spoke to had no idea what to offer and how to be competitive, not be too competitive, but not also underpay. And even I had no clue. You know, the way I was serving clients was, look, let's see what's out there on the market. Let's see what the best candidates want. Let's see what the worst candidates want, and then we see. But that's not helpful for anybody. So I thought, okay, well, the best way to do this is actually to get real data. And I really, the more I thought about it, the more it just made sense. And I couldn't believe it hadn't been done yet. And, you know, the more I figured out that actually this doesn't just help hiring managers, it helps job seekers, it helps current employees, it helps founders, it helps HR teams, you know, with headcount and budgeting. So that's why I did it.
I love it. And I think it's so ironic, you know, as an industry, hospitality technology is built around predominantly data. You know, that's what we're selling to the hotels. And yet, like you say, when it comes to salaries, it's not really there. I mean, hotel tech is a multi-billion-dollar industry globally. It's an exciting industry. It's why we're all there. We love working at it. But when you look at our salary structures, they run like the wild, wild west. So, you know, the report is out in now. I think, you know, you've already had over 100 people subscribe. So the report would have landed on their inbox. But, you know, for everybody listening in, let's dive into it and get a little sneak peek. There are some things that are quite uncomfortable. Some stats there. When I looked at it, I was very surprised. So I want to know, you know, you've analyzed over 500 professionals globally from our industry. High level, Ed, what surprised you the most when you first had the initial look at the data?
I think what surprised me the most is how fragmented the industry is. It's actually a bunch of micro markets within hotel tech. So you can't really compare an RMS to a key systems company or a PMS to a guest engagement company. It's completely different. The second thing would be that the same title doesn't actually mean the same comp, especially from a sales perspective. And then also the gender gap is quite real, but it was in a different way than I was expecting. So I think those are the three things that really stood out to me and shocked me, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the gender one, yeah. But, let's start from the basics. Compensation. Let's talk about the reality of what we're seeing. Let's talk about the money. Money matters. So the results showed that median compensation was just over 89,000 US dollars. But the top 10% were at 220,000. So that's a huge gap. What do you think is driving that gap when it comes to the salary differences across the sector?
I think what's driving it is the revenue adjacent companies, but also the sales roles where most of the money comes from the bonuses that they get from selling their products. So I think that's where it comes from. Also, why our salaries relatively high compared to other industries is that there's more of a senior market. In order to be in hotel tech, you will have had to usually spend quite a few years operationally in hotels because it's a complicated business model, the whole tech stack, and like distribution alone. Some people, study a couple of months just to understand it. So I think it demands quite a lot of maturity and understanding of the market, and also, everybody knows that in sales, the more complicated the product that you sell, the higher the bonuses and salaries, because you need that experience, know-how, and maturity in the market.
Yeah. And it's like you say, it's a difficult market to enter, difficult industry to enter if you haven't worked on the hotel side. But when we look at the different product areas of hospitality technology, you mentioned that was one of your surprises. So are people underestimating how much product category actually impacts their salaries and their earnings?
Massively. That's what stood out to me the most. So just as an example, I looked at, which product categories that people earn the most and the least, but I also looked at where people are the happiest. And what shocked me was that if you work in an OTA or a meta search company, that's where you will earn the most. If I'm not mistaken, the median total compensation is about 125 or 129K. But that's where the unhappiest people are. So that's what shocked me. So, this will be interesting for employees and job seekers to kind of look where the money is, but also where the happiness is.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on, when you filter it via gender.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into that, hopefully. But on the report, and I mean, we're not going to give away the whole report in this LinkedIn Live, but it's really interesting. Like you say, you would think, that I was really surprised when we looked at the PMS as a product segment. I thought that would be one of the highest earners. Really interesting to see that it wasn't at all. And like you say, OTA and meta search, I mean, it's a complex time as an industry for hoteliers. So when I saw the NPS of the employee satisfaction around that, I was like, that kind of makes sense. Selling those products in the world of meta search and search and looking and booking for hotels. So let me ask you, Ed, if somebody wants to earn more money and they feel like they're not getting paid correctly, do you think they should change role? Do you think they should change company? Or would you recommend that they actually change product category within hotel tech?
It's a difficult question to answer without getting more context on the person themselves, but there's several things that you need to consider. Definitely, I would say the product category is very important. Of course, function in terms of the department that you work in is important as well. If you're unhappy with your pay and you work in ops or customer success, you should really think about going into sales, for example. Now, it's more difficult to ask someone in sales to become an engineer, or an engineer to go into another department, because it's a different type of personality, set of skills, things like that.
Yeah,
I'd say geography plays quite a big part as well. Everybody knows that in the US you get paid more. but therefore there's some drawbacks as well. You know, if you work in Germany, yes, you can expect to be able to take a 1 hour or even 2 hour lunch break. In the States, that's not quite the same. The work ethic is much higher over there. So you've got these things to think about as well. I would say those are the three main things I would look at. But it's not all about money. You've got to think about NPS as well. And it's a completely different topic on how to go about it. But
yeah. And the career path, the future that you have, the travel, working from home, that's in the report. We're not going to dive into that. But that was also very interesting to see remote, hybrid versus fully in the office in the different regions, categories as well. But let me go back, Ed. You touched on something about sales, earning the most. And, the report shows that, it can be up to 220 grand. Let's talk about this OTE illusion, because it is an illusion, the bonus problem, if you like. And that's what the data is showing us. This was one of the biggest red flags for me. And I've seen this both on the employee side. I have lots of amazing, talented friends in hotel tech sales, and on the vendor side, not hitting target come Q4. So only 40.4% of people hit their full bonus. So what's happening? What do you think? Why is this happening? Why are not people earning the full OTE that maybe they were sold on when applying for that role?
Yeah, just to be clear to everyone, this is 40% of people who have variable
yes.
In their section. So this is actually a huge number. I haven't had the time to compare it to other industries. I'm going to dive deeper into this subject to be able to compare ourselves to other industries, but that really, really shocked me. So, I mean, what does that mean? So if you are applying for a role and they say the OTE is unlimited or 100K or 50K, you've got to take that with a pinch of salt, and you've got to ask the right questions before you actually take on that role. Now, I think it's not because hiring managers are bad people or are trying to swindle you. I think it's just either a lack of data, transparency, or a lack of internal data. It might be that they are a new company that don't have a track record. But however, if it's a large company that have been around for several years, then they should base it on their track record. But then you have a case where they want to attract the best candidates, so they want to show the juiciest stats. But I think any smart person earning variable should have the tools necessary to ask the right questions to figure out whether it's right for them. I think what I've noticed as well with especially the younger companies is when they hire their first salespeople, they tend to put all their expectations on selling on that individual and don't provide all the support they could get from marketing. So that's something I saw as well, that might be a contributing factor to it. But I think what I would love to do outside of this live is just do another live to dive into this topic and invite VP salespeople to give their input, because they'll have a lot more value to offer than me. But I think it will be interesting to share my data with them and see what they think.
Absolutely. And I think I'm just looking at the comments. Sorry, guys. I've just seen that there was a bit of an issue with the screens. Hopefully we're back and not pausing. But please, if you've got any questions for myself or Ed, put them in the comments box. And yes, this is like the first of many series, because there are so many different pillars, from OTA to product categorization to gender pay gap, that we can really start diving into. But we're only here for 20 minutes. So let's look at the gender sentiment that we've seen. This is something that is so close to my heart, as I know it is your heart, Ed, and we've shared many conversations about this. And the data was shocking. So let's start there. What really stood out to me was that base salaries are equal. Why was that so shocking to you? What were you expecting to see when it comes to obviously the gender, male, female? I think there was like 1% that said prefer not to say, but the ones that declared their sex, we could see that it was equal. So why was that shocking to you?
I think before the results came in, my expectation was that there would be a gap in basic salaries between men and women, because it's just the case across all industries. So I guess that was a nice surprise. It made me think, okay, there must be equal opportunity, that, you know, it must be great for women and men. When the variable came in and there was a 15K difference, that was, well, I think
just to clarify, men getting 15K more paid more on their bonuses when achieved than a woman achieving her bonus in HotelTech. Yeah.
Here's one positive side to it. It's in our faces, so we need to talk about it.
Absolutely.
I don't have the exact reason. So the survey was too short to be able to pinpoint, you know, all the reasons, but there have been some things that have come up. And we can also talk about, you know, anecdotal evidence that I've had in my conversations with candidates and hiring managers, as well as, you know, Danica has a lot of things to say about it as well. But one of the things that pops out from the survey is that nearly half the numbers of men have asked for a raise and got it.
Yeah.
But what's alarming is that a significant amount of people who asked and didn't get it was higher in numbers for women than it was for men.
Yeah.
So there's that needs to be really looked into. So
we have a lot of work to do.
I think it's a mixture of things. I think it's structural, I think it's cultural, and I also think it's behavioral as well. From an anecdotal perspective, I haven't felt the need to cheer on and make females realize how good they are as much as I do with men. Men tend to overthink they can do things. Men tend to they tend to be less risk averse, I'd say. I feel when men are risk averse, it's usually because they've got a family, they're comfortable in their roles. From a woman perspective, it's almost like they're worried about what everybody is going to think. They're worried about shining too much. I've even had a candidate speak to me once, said, "Look, I thought about applying to this role, but I don't know, I didn't want to." And this woman was way overqualified. I was like, "You are definitely going to get this. I am so sure you're going to get this." And she's like, "Okay." So I told her to promise me that next time she's on the fence about applying for a role or not, I told her to call me, because I'm going to force her to do it. So that's, you know, that from a behavioral perspective, there's that. But then also, there's a lot of women who've come to me, have told me about uncomfortable situations that they've been in the workplace. A lot of sexism that I've seen. And, you know, we are in the hospitality industry. It has a long way to go. And I've seen this operationally as well. I used to manage a pre-opening team, and we were pre-opening a hotel in Italy. And I had two ladies on my team that I put on this project to lead this project. And on the first phone call with the owner, who was a man, he was saying, "Why am I speaking to a woman? I want to speak to a man." So that's the kind of shit that we're dealing with. And this was only about 3 years ago, not long ago.
Yeah, but that's exactly why we're here, Ed. And you and I started our partnership a year ago, is not just in the gender pay gap, you know, in many different areas. It's to drive change. And so we 100%, Ed and I will be diving into gender sentiment, pay gap in more detail in another LinkedIn Live. For anybody listening, you know, hook Ed or myself up on advice. I love people asking for pay rises and change, you know, training them and helping them. So free advice at just a DM away on that point. But I feel like it almost needs like a trigger warning for the audience when they come to this section of the report. Because like you say, it's like this beautiful graph. And I think if the number was correct, it was $69,000 of like equal pay, male, female, gender split. And it's like, wow, that's great. And then it's like, the bonuses, men get paid 15% more. Then it was like, when men ask, they get it. When women ask, they don't, pretty much. And then the final piece, which is also disappointing, but hopefully every year it's going to improve, is when we look at the employee satisfaction of the gender split. Men's NPS was at plus 12, still fairly low, but okay, 12. But when we look at women's, it was -3, and that is a huge gap. So that's something that we will dive into at another time and understand what's going on beneath the surface and what advice can we give. That's something that I love about your report, Ed, at the end, the advice that you've given to founders, to women, to HR, hiring managers. It's not just a data report. It's a great piece of work. So as we round up, I just want to congratulate you and your team, Ed, for launching this report today. Thank you for bringing this to the industry. I'm so excited to continue these conversations. But before we say goodbye, is there any last parting comment, insights, thoughts that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I feel like a headmaster saying this, but I think this is a benchmark for us as an industry right now. And I think how we should all look at it is we should be looking for progress next year. I'm going to be doing this every year.
Absolutely.
What I'd love to see is progress. And I think our North Star should be to beat hospitality in general, because the hospitality ENPS, I don't know the exact number, but I know it's way more than 12.
Yeah.
So I think we should see
or -3 for the females.
So we should see an ENPS to grow from this year onwards, and we should see the gap between male and female get smaller as well. And I think another stat that we should look at is improve the accuracy of OTE, of variable. I'd say those are the biggest ones. And then I think for the companies, they could be looking at their product segments and compare their ENPS. So for example, OTA and metasearch have a lot of work to look into.
Robotics are doing pretty well.
There's a fun fact about the hardware side of things. So the hardware companies have the biggest OTE, and I think that's just because it's a double whammy. You get a commission on the SaaS side of it, but you probably get a commission on the hardware that you're selling as well. So key systems and all that, you should be getting paid quite well there.
And I think it's also interesting to see as the year pans out, and this time next year, some of the lower paid product segments were because they were so new in terms of innovation, a lot of it around robotics, around AI. So I'm really excited to see as they get more funding, what that looks like in a year's time as well. So thanks, Ed. I've really enjoyed just scraping off the very, very top surface, but for everybody listening in today and in the future, thank you so much for your time. Ed will be sharing the link where the report is live. It's there. Share it with your teams, your board, your investors, your founders, and reach out to us if you have any questions. And Ed, we're looking forward to continuing these conversations and diving into it one pillar at a time.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Danica, for supporting me since the idea inception. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. And thank you for bringing this to the industry. It's much needed. So on behalf of HotelTech, we appreciate you and we value you. And enjoy the success. And I look forward to catching up and seeing how many more downloads we have over the next 2 weeks.
Amazing. Let's see. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining and have a great afternoon. Bye.